and we are bringing you all things sexy.
Sexy tonight because we are talking about sexuality. So before we even jump into the topic of sexuality, because things will get a little spicy, of course we need to ask our guests to go ahead and introduce themselves.
I'm Melissa, also known as GT Glasses. I am the plus size representative for everyone.
Yes!
My name is Tahara. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, by means of New York, and I'm representing Guyanese culture tonight.
Nice.
And I again am Alright, well let me jump into the topic. So before we actually jump into the topic, let me come back and figure out what's in your cup, what's in our cup. So this evening in our cup, look how we all did that.
Yes. All everything.
This evening in our cup, we have a little concoction going on here called literally sex in a cup. It's smooth like that.
Let me sip it.
It's smooth like that. So inside of here, we actually have some freshly squeezed Passionfruit Juice. We also have, again, rhubarb bitters. Y'all, if you guys don't have any rhubarb bitters inside of your fridge or inside of your cabinet, get some. Because I put that inside of all of our drinks this season, I feel like.
So that's a secret?
That's a secret.
That's a secret.
I'm letting it out for that. But rhubarb bitters, passionfruit juice, and some peach rum.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll cheers to that.
Cheers. So, let me get into it.
Yeah.
How you feeling?
Well, that deserves
You
a
made
double.
this? Yes. Sex in a cup.
Outstanding.
Very good. Very good.
Alright, so let's jump into the topic. So, with sexuality, do know that this topic in particular is going to cover all different types of aspects of sexuality, not just one thing. So, starting off, actually, I want to go more so how would you say, the definition route first, so we can dispel all of those myths that you all may have with sexuality. So, anyone want to jump in on what you think the different definitions of sexuality is, or orientation, all of that?
I think just sexuality as a whole is whatever you like to do in the bedroom. Whatever you like to do during bedroom time and whatever you like to do intimately, that is your sexuality. And intimacy can be expressed in several different ways. But starting off with our acronym LGBTQ, right? L for lesbian, girl and girl relationships. They don't really stem outside of that. B, G.
So like we're going through that.
But no, I'm piggyback off what you said with not necessarily so much in a sexual aspect of things, but it's more of how you feel about yourself and the opposite gender or the same gender. So like you have pansexuals. They fall in love with someone's personality more than their physical being. So that means you can be I wouldn't say lesbian, but you can be a girl and you can be in love with a transsexual male or a transsexual female or whatever the case is, but you're falling in love with their spirit more than their physical orientation. Pansexuality. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have bisexuals, which mean, you like both. You dip in heterosexual relationships and same-sex relationships as well. So, I mean, there's so many in today's society that I swear like there's a new one coming out every day. In regards to what you are, what you want to identify as. So.
And the world is always evolving.
It is extremely evolving, especially when it comes to sexuality.
And I feel like a lot of fear comes from so many different categories. Mislabeling somebody, misgendering somebody, using the wrong pronouns, and that's almost keeping people back. You fear what you don't know.
That is true. You definitely fear what you don't know.
Awesome. So for the viewers watching, because it is a sexuality show, we are talking about sexuality. How do you guys identify yourself sexually, I guess?
I definitely fall into the lesbian category, all for the ladies.
I guess I would be more, if I had to put a label on it, it would be more pansexual. I fall in love with people's spirit before their physical orientation. So, yeah.
So you one of those people like on an interview and they're like, "What's your spirit animal?"
Yeah.
I was going to say, you had to pick 3 books to bring on a desert island.
No, it's more like I'm gonna fall in love with your aura, your whole being before I deep into that sexual part of it. It's like I want to fall in love with your spirit.
With you as a person.
With me, exactly. With you as a person, a whole, instead of just okay. So what do you have between your legs?
Okay. I like that. Sometimes that works. So
it does.
Yeah.
transgender men or transgender women, like I'll see them out and I'm just like, there's something about you. Not saying that I want to have sex with you, but there's something about you that I'm about to fall in love with. It's like
energy.
It's that whole energy.
It's the Scorpio.
It's the Scorpio.
Alright.
So with that being said, pretty much all of us actually are of Caribbean descent. Diana.
I was actually born in Guyana, so
Okay.
Guyanese, yeah.
Okay, so Guyanese, Trinidadian, and from Anguilla. So,
Question. Can I ask a question real
yes.
quick? Are either of you from GT? Georgetown?
Oh my
That's
God.
what? I just thought that was
No, I really am from Georgetown.
That's a whole different conversation. Oh, that's episode 1. Okay.
So basically, I want to know, I guess growing up in a Caribbean household, growing up with Caribbean parents, how was it growing up and being open and honest with them about, I guess, your sexual orientation? Was it hard for you? Did you have issues with that?
Well, I kind of come from a unique perspective where I'm Douglas. So for those of you viewers that don't know, I'm half black, half Guyanese. My mom is Guyanese.
Okay.
So when I was visiting her side of the family, and when I was going over to my aunt's house or going up to New York and visiting that side of the family, it was like, okay, well, I have to be the black cousin and I have to be the gay cousin. So which hat am I going to put on today? Which battle do I want to fight today? So I kept my sexuality to myself until recently. I think I was maybe 20 years old when I came out to my family. So I posted pictures on social media, Instagram, openly telling my grandma, like, Grandma, let me call you back, 'cause I gotta call this girl real quick, like, you know? So it wasn't until very, very recently I came out with my sexuality, because, you know, I can't put on those different hats. I can't remove parts of myself to please anybody. You get what you get.
Right.
I mean, with me, it was more, okay, so growing up, I'm heterosexual. I like guys. There was nothing really to say. It wasn't until I got older that I realized, hey, maybe there's some other things that I like, you know? Yeah, and being that I was actually born in Guyana, and you know, I'm not first generation American or anything like that, I still have that stigma of, you know, my parents were like, my mom was like, and I'm just like, you know what, Mom, okay, you know what, hi guys, you want me to like a white guy, sure, whatever you want me to do, but yeah.
How was it with them, like when you did bring up your sexuality, or, you know, you might have had a little different in mindset when you were growing up? How was that with your parents? How did they react?
For me, it was always an argument, because my parents were divorced and I lived with my mom. And whenever the question came out about, you know, so you date girls, like what is that like? And why don't you date guys? And why do you want to put this burden on you? And I would rebuttal with her and say, well, you were married to a black man for 20 years and he cheated on you, sis. So like, hold on. So how are you gonna, you know, attack me about my sexuality, and you're on the opposite end of the spectrum? And it got real quiet, and you know, we couldn't have those conversations because it was coming from a place of anger.
Yeah.
And you really have to change the dynamic when you want to get to somebody's love, when you want to get to somebody's sexuality. It's a sensitive topic.
Wow. I mean, with me, it was more of I didn't care at a certain point. I was grown. I had my own. I was living on my own. I was doing everything on my own. So it didn't matter what mommy or daddy said. And then everyone kind of viewed me as the black sheep of the family anyway. And I kind of do my own thing. So hey, it was one other thing to add to Melissa's plate.
Literal black
sheep. Like, you know what? She's a little different. Okay.
To me, I feel like it definitely mattered, because me, I'm the type of person, like, I feel like I am a representation of my parents, right? A lot of people might feel like that. So I'm like, okay, well, if I'm doing something that's dishonorable, you know, I'm just gonna have like a black cloud over me for the rest of my life. So I'm trying to do the straight up narrow thing. So growing up, my orientation was heterosexual. So once they found out that I was talking to guys, once they found out I was talking to guys, that was it. Like, my father is very, very religious. So I remember this one time, it was a done deal, y'all. So my mom found out, I think we was driving, she's like, you know, just tell me if you're having sex or not. And like, you know, I found out that yes, I'm having sex. No, you did it wrong. Lie. Delete. But I did not.
But you know how Caribbean mothers are. They have that intuition. They have those dreams. They know everything.
But listen to it. I was telling the lady, yes, Mom, like, I've been having sex. Just stop lying to me. As she goes, stop lying to me. Just tell me the truth. I'm like, yo, Mom, I just had she's just like, oh wait, oh she's telling the truth? Okay, cool. Let's tell the next person. So now we drive to my dad's house. We get to my dad's house. Okay, your daughter just told me that she's having sex.
Oh,
my God. What did your dad do?
Well,
Listen, my dad didn't even greet me, y'all. He's Nigerian. That's a big thing in our culture to greet someone. He didn't even greet me. He went upstairs. He came back downstairs with a Bible in his hand.
Oh no.
Like, we had a whole Bible session at the table. I'm reading scripture for scripture, like crying, you know. So sexuality doesn't necessarily have to be just orientation. It's how you exude yourself. How do you display your being? You know. And for me, it was very provocative growing up. That prefrontal thing. Lincoln right now. It wasn't fully developed, you know. So I'm over here dressing provocatively, like my shirts are really down, my pants are really tight. So for them, that sexuality in me wasn't accepted.
Yeah.
So.
And I think with Caribbean culture, and I kind of want to take a different approach to this question now, backing away from sexual orientation. Coming from a Caribbean background, I think the world kind of views us as sexual beings. So how do you guys feel like, you know, especially for carnival, like I play mass all day, every day. Like I do carnival, I play mass all the time. But how do you feel about the world perceiving us as overly sexualized? I feel like with women, we always have to, with carnival especially, like I don't know if you guys are familiar with the IG ban that happened on Instagram with carnival. IG banned carnival. Like you cannot see any pictures or any videos from carnival. So, you know, I think my question is to you then, how do you feel about being perceived as overly sexualized because of our culture, if that makes sense? Does that bother you in a way?
I wouldn't necessarily say it bothers me, but it bothers me that everything has to come from a place of sex.
Yeah.
Why can't soca just be soca? Why can't the outfits just be outfits? Why can't girls just give wine to whoever and like go on about my day? I don't have to. Yeah, I don't have to. It doesn't have to come with all of these stipulations.
Right.
You know.
Why can't we just have a good time?
I mean, if anyone follows me on IG, you'll know that I'm very vocal about this because I don't feel that our music or the way that we carry ourselves should be viewed in that sexual tone, but it's just our culture.
Right.
That's what we use to define ourselves. So for someone to say that, you know, you're slut shaming someone because they're wearing a two-piece carnival costume, it's, no. I don't believe in that. No.
And also, I feel like there's an ideal body image that's associated with carnival.
That is
big
so true.
boobs, big butt, you know, like hourglass figure, long hair, and all that. And if you don't have that, I feel like you can't participate in carnival.
That's not true.
Little booties do matter.
Listen.
Let me do
I mean, I wouldn't know because I'm thick, but I wouldn't know I'm thick, but like, I feel you. Everyone can participate in this type of culture. I feel like that's what makes the Caribbean. Like there are so many different people. Like I'm Indian. I'm so Indian and I'm Caribbean. You know, there are people that speak Spanish that are in the Caribbean. You know, there are people. Everybody in the Caribbean. We just so colorful.
We really
So we welcome everybody, and it's the outsiders. It's the people that aren't a part of the club that, you know, try to put these stipulations on us. It's like, you didn't make it. This isn't yours to put a label on.
That is true. That is true. And to piggyback off what you said about the whole body type and feeling comfortable with even playing mass because, you know, someone views you a certain way. Like, I'm a plus size girl, and I'm a proud plus size girl, and I will go there and I will put on my two-piece costume and flaunt myself just as this size 2 or size 8. Because carnival is about loving your culture. It's about loving your music. It is not a time where we're shaming people for their body. We're just enjoying the vibe and enjoying each other and the company. These are people probably haven't seen all year. And you know, groups of girls get together once a year and they'll have that one carnival moment. Like at that point in time, I'm not worried about if my friend has like triple rolls over her bathing suit. Right. Girl, you better flaunt that bathing suit.
If you think about it, like carnival celebrates the country, and we all came from that country, so we all have an equal right to be there.
For those of you guys who don't know, let me take a little history lesson.
Do it, sis.
The significance of mass costumes is something that's very important to our culture. Those countries or those islands who actually participate in mass. So it stems from different characters in slavery time. So you have the Dame Lorraine, you have the Mokojumbi, you have the Jab Jab, just so many different types of characters from slavery time. And through that, those big elaborate costumes, that's old-time masks. Those are big costumes where you see the king and queens, really, really detailed and tedious type of costumes. That, over time, like I said, things are evolving. So over time, those have came into the new wave of costumes, which is classified as beaded bikinis. So that is what you actually see more so on the road, because everyone wants to be sexy. Talk about sexuality. Everyone wants to be sexy. Everyone wants to show skin. So now you see, everyone wants to be loved. So we're stemming away from the actual classics of what mass actually is, and we're going more to the glamorized means of what mass is now today. But it's not just beads and bikinis. It's not just bras and underwear. It's not lingerie. We're gonna get into that later. But it's actually a deeper meaning behind our roots and behind our history and culture.
You are so true.
And I think a problem is, when you have Carnival and you have Juve, you have all these festivities in the Caribbean, we're not necessarily censored there. But when you bring the culture into the States, I think that's when you have all the censor. Oh, Carnival, I promise you, I've played mass so many times, but I remember one time in particular, I think it was 2014, and this is when Atlanta Carnival, this is one carnival downtown. And I remember playing mass, and I had on a costume and dancing with my friends, and I see like spectators, I see all these people out there, and there were some people that generally didn't know what carnival was, and they had their young kids out there. But when it got to the point where people were dancing, they covered their eyes. And I'm like, but if that's the case, why are you here? Like, this is culture. This is not, we're not trying to
offend
we're not trying to offend anybody. This is our culture. You know what I mean? So I think there's a difference when it comes to playing mass in the Caribbean versus playing mass here in the States because of, I guess, preconceived notions of who Caribbean people are.
That's true.
Well, let's even talk about that though, the covering of the eyes versus the exposing of the eyes. Because to me, I think that's something that's very powerful. Like growing up in a Caribbean household, like I was taught, I don't know how old I was, y'all, but I was taught how to whine. How many of y'all was taught how to whine? That's a thing. Like a lot of times, dance and music is such a big part of our culture. So for somebody to teach you at a young age, like you better learn how to whine, because if you don't know how to whine, somebody gonna make fun of you.
Right,
That's the thing.
Stiff hips.
Stiff hips.
I used to be called white girl, I used to be called white girl. Didn't know how to whine for the longest. But like with my kids, my sons, they all learn how to whine. My nieces and nephew, you're all going to learn to whine. Yes, you guys are first generation American, but you are going to learn how to whine because it's part of your culture. It's nothing sexualized. It's not the grinding or whatever everyone thinks it is. It's just our movement, our flow, just like how the Caribbean sea flows through. That's the way how our body goes. So,
but let me rewind again. You said your son?
My son.
Your son, Know that guys can whine too. All y'all bad mans who want to learn all the do something, free up your soul.
Better move your shoulder.
Better move your waist.
Right.
But yeah, well let's switch gears a little bit. Let's actually talk about the music and let's talk about the language even that we have and our dialects across the islands. What are your thoughts on that? Okay, sexuality.
Growing up, it took me the longest while to figure out that some of the songs that we listened to meant something super sexual. Like there were certain songs like, you couldn't sing because, obviously it's had the words in it. Your parents were like, don't say that, but we know what it meant. But when they're just like, a 9-inch banana and a 2 sapodilla and Madonna, I'm like, yo.
But even to that point, I think it was recently, I was 20 years old when I found out one of my favorite soca songs actually had an ad-lib in the front that said, ready to whine, like man to man, girl to girl, that's wrong.
Yes.
And there's so many homophobic songs in soca music, and I'm like, wait, hold up, like, I want to get jiggy to this, but like, can we just address the sexuality, with the perspective that's coming from this, because this is hurting my feelings.
But when you were younger though, you were dancing to it, jamming to it.
Now you're cognizant of it, and you're just like, do I continue to dance?
Right.
Because, like, I feel a certain way. Like, that even goes to dance hall as well, too. There's certain songs that I'm just like, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to dance because I don't feel comfortable doing this. Now that I am consciously aware of everything that's going on in the world and about every sexuality and everything, that I'm just like, no, I don't feel comfortable. But, like I said, those songs, but I will tell you this, though. Soca music does have the sweetest way of telling someone I'm going to have sex with them. I'm saying that
talking about dialect and the type of words that we use, a lot of people like to mimic like Caribbean dialect and Caribbean culture, and it kind of sprinkle it in. You hear it in like a lot of pop culture, like Drake.
Oh,
Even though he's from
yes.
Toronto, he loves to act like, you know, he's from Caribbean culture and represents it. But some of the words that we use, people like to think it's in a playful manner, but like if somebody were to call you Auntie Man, like, you know, that means, you know, you're gay.
Yeah.
That sounds sweet off the tongue, and other people from Caribbean culture that don't know what that means and don't know like the weight that's held with that word, they love to use it. They love to throw it around like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Call me Auntie Man, what? Like, we're fighting.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just adapt to. You can't have your hand in everything.
Do you think the Caribbean will ever get to the point where they're mindful of other sexual orientations, or do you think that they'll continue to have the same mindset that our parents and our great-grandparents had, where it's like, it's either this or this? Or you go to church, something's wrong with you.
Honestly, with our generation, you know, when I think about having kids and raising kids, you know, that might have a different sexual orientation than the standard heterosexual type. If they're being raised by someone like me or anyone in the same spectrum, I honestly feel like there is room for change.
Yeah.
You know, with our current generation. So I say, yeah, I'm optimist.
Well, I'm happy that you are, because unfortunately I'm not. And it just goes back to, you know, the older generation influencing the younger generation. And you're always gonna, it's just like racism here in America. You're always gonna find those racists because their parents taught them this and this is what it's gonna be. And it's gonna translate on and keep going, and an ugly cycle is just gonna keep happening. And it's gonna happen with the Caribbean culture. As much as, and you're right about younger generation teaching their kids, like my kids, I taught them from a young age, okay? There are people who like the same sex that you are. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with seeing two men kiss. There's nothing wrong with seeing two ladies kiss. If someone is in love, love is something that you cherish. It doesn't matter. So they understand that with them being first generation American, or Caribbean American, like, they get that. But there's not enough of us open-minded Caribbean people to translate that to our kids to have that continue. I feel like that stigma and that cycle is just going to keep happening, where it's like, okay, if you're gay, it's bad.
You're right. It's not in the music. It's not in the politics. It's not on media, and that's where we get our influence from. So if it's not there, it could be in the households all day, every day. But at the end of the day,
I think the main thing to take away from this little subtopic is respect, honestly, because you don't honestly have to fancy someone's orientation or preference, but if you have respect for them, at least have respect for them to just like, you know, that's your opinion, that's my opinion, and let me go from there. You understand? You don't have to disrespect anyone. But I mean, I feel like I'm kind of in the middle of you all. I feel like, yes, the older generation kind of has a grasp on things, and things are just gonna be how it is. That's how we've grown up, and right is right, wrong is wrong. You know? But then also too, there's a younger generation. Our generation as millennials, we're growing. You know, even people a little bit older than us are thinking like, you know what? Maybe times are changing a little bit. I don't have to necessarily agree with it, but times are changing. Let them do what they want to do. Actually, a few years ago, there was actually a law that was passed in Trinidad, the Buggery Law, and that's something that was monumental because times ago, you couldn't be out there just lollygagging, having sex with whoever, and being proud and loud, and you know, somebody might shun you, somebody might do something real bad to you. But now, I mean, they may again not agree with it, but they're gonna respect your decision. It should be you.
That's true.
So I kind of am hopeful that the world is gonna change.
I think the only thing we can do is just be as optimistic as we possibly could. I think with just the way, like you said, millennials, our mindset is completely different. Completely different than the way we were brought up. So I think I'm optimistic.
Optimists and activists.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also that goes to with in Carnival now, I see a whole lot of gay guys coming out in their bikinis.
I love that.
And they're dancing and whining, and I'm just like, man, sis, I love you. I love you so much. Like, you don't know, and you know, you see the older generation, they're just looking at them like, ugh. But it's like, okay, let them be free, let them. But that goes back to this American culture where it's a little bit more accepted here. So the second generation or first generation Caribbean American kids feel a little bit more comfortable expressing themselves than to say if we were back home and saying that this is what I'm going to do. You're still going to get shunned. You're still going to get beat. And even though there's laws that are out there now to protect them, it's still going to happen.
I feel like a main point, like because we own the largest population in the world that commits suicide, Guyanese people, the main country that has the largest suicide population is Guyana. That proves that something isn't working.
Yeah.
Having a black and white spectrum isn't working.
Right.
Having a do and don't isn't working. Having arranged marriages and all these things just aren't working because people are offing themselves left and right in our country. So something's got to change.
Yeah.
Now, do you all, I have a question, do you all think that the normalization, if you will, of sexuality or different orientation, do you think that is due to Americanization?
Yes, Americanization meaning being offended over everything. You know what I'm saying? Like having so many things just pushed into media by having everyone represented in media. I mean, I feel like that's kind of unnecessary. You know, like I feel like it's kind of unnecessary in the sense that like you don't know anything that isn't shown to you, and including everybody and making sure all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. That's American culture. Being offended over everything, arguing over everything. What do you think?
No, you're right. That call it the crybaby syndrome. Everybody wants to be a crybaby.
Oh my god, I have to use that.
Yeah, everybody wants to be a crybaby. You know, there's something you can all cry about. But you know, like I said, it's becoming, because of the American culture and of Americans being so open to other sexuality, it is becoming a little bit easier for Caribbean people to express themselves over here.
Yeah.
So that plays into a lot of it. So I mean, now it's just to translate back to home.
Yeah.
Because it's always about going back home. Because at the end of the day, I'm Guyanese. Like I don't care what really. I mean, I care what happens in America because I have kids here and I live here. But you know what happens at home is where my heart is. So I want the same thing back home.
So I have one little question again. Ponder on this a little bit.
Okay.
So it's not an audience question. My Ross
Comment down below.
Please comment. So, as you all are Caribbean beings, or aspects of it, how are some ways that you enjoy or you love exuding your sexuality within a Caribbean culture?
Okay, so for me, Guyanese culture stems from India, and I love like dressing up in my like henna and my bindis and my saris and exuding my sexuality that way. I feel the most beautiful when I'm dressed up in Indian like attire head to toe. I like that.
Me, I post whining videos online.
She does. Follow her.
GT_glasses. I love my sexuality and I love my body, and it took years for me to love this, but I express it that way. I post a whining video, I'll post it in my bra, or I'll post it in my underwear. Like I really don't care. Like you don't have to look. You can always unfollow.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Instagram.
But exactly, it's Instagram, and that's why I don't take social media as serious as everyone else. I do it for an enjoyment for me. It's not for the likes or the shares or the follows or whatever it is. It's a way for me to express myself.
Yeah.
And that's how I engage with even my American friends. They're just like, can you teach me how to whine like that? Like, what do you do? And I'm just like,
We're not gonna spend time teaching you.
So like when you TikTok, do you go up and then like down?
Like, does your back hurt? I'm sure your back hurts.
Yes, it does.
I'm like, it does.
But you get used to it.
So that's how I express myself and my sexuality within my culture. I do that, and I want everyone to feel comfortable with their body. And I don't only do it for just plus size women to feel comfortable. I want women in general, because sometimes I feel like we have this stigmatism where we have to fit in this box.
Yeah.
And I'm not about boxes.
Right.
Tear away the box. Tear away the rapper.
Well, I'm into
Be you,
boxes,
exactly.
but-
Lord.
That was episode.
That's another box. That's another topic. But yeah, I express myself that way, and I hope that it translates to women out there where they feel comfortable enough with their body and themselves to go ahead and do that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you guys so much. I feel like we learned so much tonight. I
Thank
really
you.
love talking to you guys. And to the audience members, of course, I think this is a good segue into listener question. Same question Rob just asked. How do you exude your sexuality within your Caribbean culture? So, of course, comment underneath, let us know, and we will discuss on next week's show. All right, so I guess at this point, let's go ahead and jump into the student organization. Shout out.
Yes. I want to give a shout out to G. I said G. I'm thinking of GT. Sorry, you guys know y'all.
I know. I'm unforgettable.
It's this little.
Shout out to Georgia State University's CaribbeanLifeTV. You guys are doing a fabulous, fantastic job. One of my favorite events actually from this semester of your school year was actually the Taste of the Caribbean. You all did a phenomenal job. Have you ever
I
been to
went. It was good, right?
Yeah. Man, Georgia State, shout out to you all.
Yeah, shout out to Georgia State. And on that note, of course, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in and living with us tonight. You can follow us at watch_the_lime, DILIME. Of course, follow us at CaribbeanLifeTV on Instagram and Facebook, and then also CaribbeanLifeTV Global on YouTube. Alrighty, well, thank you guys for lining with us, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good night. Bye.